Bronan, what is best in life?
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the Zumundo podcast.
Between the rise of the Joe Rogan experience and when AI drank all of media, there was a podcast undreamed of. And unto this, DOOLIN and Keith, destined to wear the crown of pop culture upon a troubled brow. It is I, their chronicler, who alone can tell thee of their saga. Let me tell you of the days of the Zumundo podcast. And welcome back to Zumundo podcast. I'm DOOLIN.
Hi, I'm Greg.
And Greg, the microphone's in your face. You just look like a dude with a microphone in his face right now.
I am microphone man.
Well, turn it a little bit. There you go. You got this.
I don't know how anything works. I don't know how anything works.
I believe in you.
Thank you.
So, welcome back to Zumundo, guys. First thing you might notice is Keith is not here. Where is Keith? Well, so a little bit of show notes before we get going. Keith's got a lot of life stuff happening right now. He needed to take a step back and bow out. I don't know if it's permanent or not, or if he's. I imagine he'll be back in at some point, even if as a guest. I'm just, he said he might come back. It just really kind of depends. So just so you know, there's no drama there or anything like that. Me and Keith are still very close friends. He's just taken a step back, and the door is open for him to return anytime he wants.
So I shouldn't have chiseled his name off the office door.
Right.
It was a little too brash. Okay,
off the studio door. Yeah. So Greg, if you were here with us on the last episode of Zumundo, Greg sat in with me and Keith and our friend Rick, who is now out on the West Coast, living his LA life.
Nice,
Hope you're doing good out there. But yeah, man, we're gonna pick it up with another round of Zumundo for some pop culture stuff, but. As always tends to be our way sometimes, Greg, people pass before their time, or maybe it is their time, but whatever it is, when that happens, we like to give a solid Zumundo farewell. And this month's, because it's kind of a monthly show now, this month's kind of a tough one, man. We lost Val Kilmer.
Yeah, that's I did not see that coming. I mean, I knew he had been ill for a very long time.
Yeah, he'd been ill for a long time, and I know he reprised his role in Top Gun Maverick as Iceman, but he couldn't even speak anymore. No. I think because of the throat cancer.
Right. And
so they had to kind of write it in that the character also had throat cancer because he couldn't speak.
Sure. Yeah.
Found out a little fun fact about that because Iceman's character. Spoilers, if you haven't seen it, Top Gun Maverick, Val Kilmer's character Iceman actually dies of the cancer at the end of it, and uncredited in the movie is actually his children at their fictitious father's funeral, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
So I mean, it's just kind of weird to think about that they attended their father's character's funeral in Top Gun,
right,
knowing full well that they were going to have to go through those motions and do it again at some point down the line, man. But
that's rough.
Yeah, Val Kilmer though, man, great line of work, dude. He did so many fantastic movies. Mm-hmm. I think none for me more amazing than, I think this is the one that most people say is probably Doc Holliday in Tombstone.
Sure, of course.
I mean, that was an iconic role, man. And like I think we still quote Doc Holliday to this day.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Not me. I'm in my prime. No. Also a character who was dying during the course of the movie.
Yep. No, absolutely. Like you said, iconic. One of the greatest characters in all of cinema. But I prefer Dennis Quaid. No, I'm kidding. In the Wyatt Earp movie. No, that's not true at all. No, he was fantastic in that. I mean, you can't not mention Doc Holliday. For me, I always tend to go to Top Secret.
That's a throwback, man.
That was like one of his earliest roles on film. Might have been his first starring role.
Yeah, I think it was. It was like mid '80s or something. I think when that came out.
It's one of the funniest movies ever made, though.
Yeah,
and he's just fantastic in it. So Top Secret, a lot of love out there for Real Genius, the wacky college movie that he did, where he played a a genius, who was real. No, so that and then of course we can't not mention Batman.
But yeah, you can't not mention Batman. That's definitely true. There was on-screen Batman, and Val Kilmer was definitely one of them.
He was one of them. And let's move on from that topic because
we want to say good things.
Yeah,
about
we want to say good things.
Honestly,
about Val. It's not his fault.
You know what? I was just going to say it's not his fault.
It's not his fault. There's a lot wrong with Batman Forever. It's a terrible movie. But it's really he's trying very hard.
Yeah, no, I know he was trying very hard. And you know what? And it's like, to its credit, Batman Forever was entertaining. It was. I mean, listen, I was never bored at any point watching the movie. It was an entertaining film.
Yeah, when I was 10 years old.
Yeah,
and in retrospect,
when I was a kid, and it's just kind of funny the way the progression. I don't want to get off too off topic from Val Kilmer, but it's just kind of funny the progression of the Batman movies. Where when you started in 1989 with Michael Keaton, it was dark and gritty and just about as far away as you could get as the 1960s Adam West Batman, and that's why everybody loved it. But by the time each one got just a little bit campier. And by the time you got to Batman and Robin, you're back in Batman 1960s territory. And
it did kind of come full circle. I think the camp was always there, even from the original '89 Batman. What that movie was able to do, and what Batman Returns was able to do, was have the camp, but also have their darkness, and it melded together really, really well.
Yeah,
you didn't get like a whiplash effect.
There's going to be a certain amount of camp in a live action movie
about a man that dresses up as a bat.
As a bat, exactly.
I mean, but everyone, sure, yeah, 89 dark and gritty, but remember, there's also the Joker dancing to a Prince song twice in the movie. Yeah. So it's very silly as well. And then you've got in Batman Returns, the circus people and whatnot. It's all very silly, but it was able to have
mind control penguins with rockets on their back.
Oh,
I mean,
such a beautiful movie.
Anyways, we're going off topic.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into it, but it just as they went on, you got more of a whiplash effect from going from the darker moments to the sillier moments. They just didn't blend together. And by the time they got to Batman and Robin, they just stopped trying. Yeah. Batman Forever makes a couple of attempts to be kind of dark and serious to varying degrees of success. But yeah, at Batman and Robin, they just stopped. But yeah, you're right. We're getting on a wild tangent on
Val Kilmer. We're on Val Kilmer right now.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to say this because this is something that I had never really known about, and actually, I'll get to that in a minute. I want to do a couple more notable works that he did. You can't forget Willow.
I can.
Willow was a fun 80s movie, man.
He's a lot of fun in it. Matt Monaghan. It's a very fun 80s movie. I watched it several times when I was a kid and just didn't understand a goddamn thing going on. But no, it was a really cool looking movie. He was great in it. And it has its own place in the celestial tapestry of nerdy movies and fantasy movies. It does have its own place there. And again, he's very good.
And then for his couple other films of his I really like, Ghost in the Darkness with Michael Douglas.
Oh, that movie is fantastic. I love that movie.
That is a great film.
It is so good.
He and Michael Douglas were amazing together.
It was a great pairing
in that movie.
No, I love everything about that.
But there's one more team up that I feel is legendary for Val Kilmer and often gets overlooked because it wasn't really a big movie. I want to say it came out in 2005, so 20 years ago. And this is before Robert Downey Jr. had his big comeback. Hollywood, he was blacklisted for the longest time, not because of mostly because of his antics, but he was unemployable by Hollywood. They refused to look at him. So
absolutely.
And so this is 3 years before Robert Downey Jr. comes back, makes his big comeback as Iron Man. And he was in a little film called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang alongside Robert Downey Jr., where he plays a gay private investigator. And man, does he sell it, dude. He is so good in that movie.
I mean, Shane Black, doing his thing with kind of mystery, action, and comedy.
A little bit of noir in it, even though it's a modern day thing. It's very film noir-esque kind of thing, but in just terms of a murder mystery kind of film.
But Downey Jr.'s fantastic. Val Kilmer, he steals the show every time. He's just the ferocity of his anger towards Robert Downey Jr. throughout the majority of the movie. Just
Robert Downey Jr.'s character is an idiot in that movie.
Is a massive idiot, and he has to put up with him. It just makes me laugh thinking about it. He just gets so angry with him throughout the entire movie. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful pairing. And if you haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, please go out and watch it. It's really worth it.
It is very, very good. And to this day, probably one of my favorite Val Kilmer roles. So.
Look up the definition of the word idiot in the dictionary. What do you see? My picture of me? No, the definition of the word idiot, which you fucking are. Obviously not a very good Val Kilmer impersonation, but I just love that line.
Yeah,
he sells the hell out of it.
It's a great line, great film, man. So yeah, and then of course, I'm pretty sure his final performance was reprising Iceman and Top Gun, which is kind of all comes full circle back for him, man. So I think he was only 66 years old,
65 or 66.
Yeah, 65 or 66, and he's going to be missed, man. He leaves behind a big legacy. So as we always like to do, Greg's got a can of Coca-Cola. I got a cup of water here. We're going to raise our glasses to the late, the great Val Kilmer. Val, thank you so much for all the films and all the entertainment. We will see you on the other side.
Definitely.
All right. Are you ready to fight, sir?
Yes, let's do this.
So, here's something a little thing about Greg. We've talked about doing this as a podcast for like a long time, or at least like an episode of a podcast, which is what we're doing. But it's one of the most heated debates across the internet ever since it came out in 2018 or 17.
I'm not good with dates, so you're gonna have to be the date man.
Pretty sure it was 20. I'm pretty sure it was like 2017. 2017. Last Jedi comes out, written and directed by Rian Johnson, and it's a very polarizing film. But if you go to a message board and you read the discourse on it, it is very uncivilized, and people go for
so uncivilized.
People really they go for the each other's necks when it comes to the Last Jedi, and so for me, you either like it or you didn't,
right?
And I didn't like it. And Greg did, and
very much so.
But we've had discussions about this before. But I was like, dude, how great would it be if we could just sit down and have shall we say, a peaceful altercation, if you will, over the debate of The Last Jedi. So this is me and Greg having our discourse on The Last Jedi. We do not agree on this. So I don't know, maybe by the end of it, maybe one of us will come around and see the other person's perspective a little bit more. So
I don't think so.
Well, I'm open to it.
I think we have a better chance of Val Kilmer coming into the room and joining our discussion than that. No, I am open to it as well. No. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, I am.
Well, let's start with this before we even get in and start going tit for tat on some of these plot points and stuff. You can't really talk about The Last Jedi without going into The Force Awakens.
Absolutely.
So Force Awakens comes out in 2015, and I, of course, I flocked to the theater to see it because, man, look at my shirt, dude. I'm a Star Wars kid, true and true at heart. And I think at that point, when I was watching Force Awakens in the theater, I left going, I loved it. It was amazing. They did Star Wars right. And as time went on, and I had more time to reflect on it, and I was like, wait a minute. What about? Wait, hold on, time out. Hold on, this doesn't make sense because it's just I was just so enchanted to have seen Star Wars on the big screen again. I just completely tossed everything out aside, and as time kind of went on, I'm like, no, wait, I got a lot of problems with Force Awakens, and I think that's something that we can both find common ground on for Force Awakens. For example, I look back on it now and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You had 6 movies about the rise and fall of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went ahead and took it and you were just and Etch-a-Sketch and the Empire's in power again. It's not the Empire. It's the First Order, but
whatever you want to call
Empire 2.0. The Empire is back.
The Empire is back.
In the span of about 25 years, the Empire is back.
Right.
And you don't really get any backstory on how the hell that even happened. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and this is actually a point of contention that Nikki Boom Boom, our friend, former
Nikki,
co-host
what's up?
of
I hope you're watching, man.
Cast 3000.
You guys should bring that back.
We'll see. But it's a point of contention for him as well, because he's like, well, where the hell did they come? How did this happen? For me, personally, while there are some issues with the Force Awakens, for me that's not one of them. Mainly just because I don't care. We didn't even really know how the Empire came to be in the first Star Wars. They're just kind of already there.
Well, I mean, that you can do that, though, if it's the first film.
Right. But I just assumed it was just remnants of the Empire, and they just amassed, and they still had technology and equipment from when they were in power.
Yeah.
And they just amassed. That's all. They got the band back together.
I mean, the New Republic is still there in The Force Awakens, but it is kind
for
of
like 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's kind of crumbling. I mean, it's crumbling and falling apart. Like, they don't expressly say it, but you can just kind of tell. The First Order is like gain power across star systems and stuff. And so that was like one of my main issues with that.
I will say, though, on the opposite side of that, going back to the New Republic, that I do have an issue with, because it is a little confusing, because they're not the rebels anymore. They're the resistance.
That is aligned with the New Republic, but is not the New Republic.
Right, like it's so like the New Republic has not officially sanctioned the resistance, so they're kind of doing this on their own, but they're not. Yeah. And it's like, why? Because I don't think, and I'll tell you why I think, not why in universe, but why I think the decision for that was made was because like we have. You needed to have like the underdogs, the rebellion, and if they have a major government like officially backing them, they're not really so much the government, or they're not really so much the underdogs. Like if the government's behind them, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, it just to me they did everything to be like, and we're starting back at square zero. Right. All that war, like the destruction of both the Death Stars, none of that mattered. We're just back here. And then I think it's very, very much personified when Rey picks up Luke Skywalker's old lightsaber and she asks Maz Kanata, where did you get this? And she was like, great question for another time. Narrator, the time would never come. Yeah, that's...
So it's like, it's very, I mean, it's almost kind of tongue-in-cheek, like just looking at, like, it's almost like she almost broke the fourth wall and like, don't ask questions, just watch a movie.
She should have just been, I have no idea where I got this. and neither do the writers.
We're never going to bother to tell you. It doesn't matter.
They open a literal mystery box in the movie. They open a literal mystery box and they start tossing Star Wars at you. Like, remember this scene from the Empire? And remember this sound effect? And remember that?
I was like,
it was cool.
And I remember going like, I'm like, and they got me with it. Like they got me with it in the theater in 2015 because I'm just like, nostalgia.
Star Wars.
I remember that.
Exactly.
Dopamine.
What's not to love about that? All those familiar images and such. And, and I think years ago when it came out, Doug Walker, the nostalgic critic, he made an interesting point, and I liked what he had to say about it, which was, I think Disney needed to prove that they could do Star Wars because there was such disappointment over the prequels that Disney just needed to be like, hey, no, we get what Star Wars is, at least in terms of aesthetic. So here, and we just want to prove that we can do it, and then maybe down the road we can start doing some different stuff and going into some interesting directions, which they didn't.
Which they didn't.
Well, I mean, ultimately they didn't.
Rogue One was good. I think we disagree on that, actually.
Oh, we absolutely disagree with that.
That's right. Well, we can do that. I don't want to spend too much time on Rogue One. Or anything,
no, absolutely not. But I know most people like it. I guess I'm in the minority.
Okay.
I think
that's fine. That's cool.
I think it's a boring movie.
So, but
it's a boring movie with a really good action climax at the end, but it didn't have anything to prop it up. It didn't earn it. It's like, again, it's Star Wars. Like, look, I recognize that X-wing. I recognize red leader standing by. Like all of those things started. But anyway, let's not go.
That's okay. So I mean, it's kind of funny because I knew that we both had issues with The Force Awakens, but what I realize now that we're actually sitting down and talking about it is we both don't like The Force Awakens, but for different reasons, which kind of explains to me why you like Last Jedi and I do not like Last Jedi, because a lot of my grumbles with The Force Awakens are also my grumbles with The Last Jedi. So I'll let you say your thing. Go ahead.
Sure. I think it might be a little too harsh to say that I don't like The Force Awakens. I have some issues with it. Again, I see what they're trying to do. They took the skeleton of Star Wars and then they slapped some new characters around it. I like the characters in general. I think they were doing some. They were exploring, the concept of fear, I think to a greater degree in that movie than they did really in the other movies. But again, it was just so beholden to everything that came back. Like you really couldn't, it didn't have enough of its own identity.
Yeah.
In retrospect, like you, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, they knocked it out of the park. Yeah. And then over time, I was just like, they really could have done a few things differently to just set themselves apart, which, again, we're about to get into. I thought they did amazingly well in The Last Jedi because I thought that movie did form its own identity. I mean, you're never going to be able to escape what came before, but they did enough things differently, I guess you could say, in The Last Jedi that, but I think that's going to pool into the greater argument that we're about to have.
Okay.
So, but yeah, Force Awakens, a little too beholden to the past. Again, it is literally the blueprint for the original Star Wars with some new characters slapped on it. I've, for a long time, defended the movie saying, by virtue of the fact that the characters are different, then the movie itself is different because we're following different people. And I still somewhat think that, but again, I think there's just too much going on that are that's just copying the first one to really. So
I get that.
It's for me, The Force Awakens. It's a back and forth thing. There are things I like about it, and there are things I don't like about it. But it's not a total hatred of it, but it has gone down in my estimation over time, and probably will continue to do so as I revisit it.
Well, so like if I start, I mean, we can go over the points about the things that you also like about The Last Jedi, things I didn't, but I mean, I've got points upon points about things that like the more I think about it, the more I hate it. And I know we've actually had this discussion once, which was I felt like RIAN JOHNSON, like he was so focused in on telling the story he wanted to tell, as opposed to just telling a continuation of the Star Wars story that was already rolling. And I'll give you an example, like Rey's lineage. That was the big mystery box question.
Right.
That was like opened up, and then immediately, as soon as they started rolling Last Jedi, like, nope, we're just going to take that over there. It doesn't matter. Your theories don't matter. And I mean, there was an image that went viral with RIAN JOHNSON holding up a sticky note that says your Snoke theory sucks. And it was like, he was extremely antagonistic
some
towards
A-level trolling there.
He was very trollish. He's very trollish towards the fans and stuff. And I'm like, okay, you understand like how passionate Star Wars fans are about the canon of Star Wars, and you're like, you're out here mocking them. And I can also understand, like, from a director, storyteller standpoint, you get all of this hatred, and your immediate thing is like, well, I'm going to double down and fuck these guys. You know what I mean? But it came across as really trollish, especially when there were things that he put into the movie with, just like with Force Awakens, almost felt just to be breaking the fourth wall to tell you, shut up. Like, let the past die, kill it if you have to, as if to say, let go of your stupid fucking nostalgia. This is my movie now. This is the story I'm telling. Rey's lineage doesn't matter.
It doesn't. But
it did apparently in the end. But that's like your great hero Luke Skywalker is an old coward who gets his ass handed to him by the young upstart hero. I mean, but if you think about that, like if Luke played, like I kind of went into it when they first announced it, hoping that Luke Skywalker would be the new Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
But he wasn't. Han Solo filled that role.
Yes.
And he filled the role of Yoda. He's essentially Yoda in terms of the character beats, because like after the mentor dies, the hero goes to a second mentor, or I believe in Campbell's hero's journey, it's referred to as the meeting with the goddess, who is not necessarily a female figure. In the Matrix, it's the Oracle.
Right.
So I mean, but that's the character archetype is the goddess, and so that is Luke Skywalker's role in this trilogy. He's the goddess. And if Luke Skywalker had landed on Dagobah and started that shit with Yoda, Yoda would have whipped the shit out of him. Instead, she beats him up with a stick.
She does not beat him up with a stick. He wins most of that fight. She gets the upper hand at the very end. He beats her up with a stick.
I feel that like they took like everybody's childhood hero, the beacon of hope, to a disillusioned recluse hiding away, waiting to die. And it just feels disconnected from the Luke Skywalker we know. Now, like, just like I said with The Force Awakens, this kind of goes back to my thing with The Force Awakens. You can do that. You can have that arc, but you have to show your work when you do it. And it's just kind of like, oh, well, you know, he just kind of, you know, he almost killed his nephew and then realized he needed to cut himself off from the Force. And, you know, he was no teacher and he just shouldn't do it anymore. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Let's back up to the part where you were about to kill your nephew because you thought maybe you saw a glimpse of the dark side in him. And you're like, no, I'm going to kill this little bitch. I am going to kill my sister and best friend's son because I think he might go to the dark side versus I can redeem my father. There's some good in him. I know it.
Right.
Like, he's like, I don't have time for this shit. You got to die, kid. I mean, that was a cowardly act, man. Like,
yes, I agree. It is a cowardly act, but so yeah. First of all, I'm trying to sum this up.
Okay, go ahead. That's right.
So I disagree with all of that.
Of course you do. It's okay.
For your issue is you say you need to see some work, as in, like, you know, how could this character get to this place? You know, it's just completely out of left field. And I do admit that, yes, about to slay your own nephew is a pretty harsh move. However, they do say, I believe in The Force Awakens, and they might repeat it again in The Last Jedi, that it wasn't just like he got one glimpse of the fact that, oh, there might be some dark side in him. He was sensing it for a while, like it was growing and growing. So I think there was an accumulation. Now, I do agree that, you know, as this is a movie with, you know, moving images, it would have been nice to have actually had scenes, maybe like some flashbacks or something like that, showing a little bit more. I do agree with you there. I think if I do have one criticism of The Last Jedi is that while I love a lot of what's there, I do think that Rian Johnson does play his cards a little too close to his chest.
A little bit too much, yeah. Because you got to think this is part 2 of a 3-part story,
right?
And it's time to kind of show a little bit more of the story. Like, you know, Empire. You know, we got some really big reveals in Empire. You know what I mean? But there wasn't. The reveals just weren't revealing, you know, for lack of a better word.
It was so again I will cop to that he might play the cards a little too close to his chest. For me though, I can't agree with the whole, well, I just can't see any of this happening, because if you look back at Luke Skywalker, he's always been a fairly flawed character. And by flawed, I don't mean that in a negative way.
I agree. I know where you're going with it. I'm going to let you say your piece.
Sure.
I have a rebuttal in the chamber, but go ahead.
It's and I don't mean flaws as in a negative way. We all have flaws. Every human being has a flaw, and that's fine. That's just what life is. But, you know, he was he always had confidence issues, because I think with the problem people have with The Last Jedi is you're thinking of Luke from Return of the Jedi, which was the last time we saw that character. And he had become a much more confident character, and he had, you know, some stoicism, and he still, again, had to fight, you know, against his anger and emotions towards the end, but he, again, managed to overcome them and do the, you know, the Jedi thing of, you know, acting, you know, nonviolence is actually the best solution. Because Jedis don't attack, they defend.
Correct.
So, I guess I understand where you and some other people coming from, where you do have that last image of a Luke Skywalker that has come to terms with how to control his emotions and really become the Jedi that he was destined to be. And then, yeah, basically like hit the fast forward button, and it's just like, and I'm done.
Prepare to fast forward. Fast forward. But okay, go ahead.
I think, but seeing that this was a person that did have to go through journeys to get to where he was, for me, I was okay with him having to go on another journey. That's the whole thing that kind of Yoda tells him at the end. Is, you know, we are what they, you know. Sorry, it's what Yoda's trying to say is basically, or what the movie is trying to say is, you're never done learning. There's always something else to be learning. Even if you're a master, there are lessons to learn.
Right.
And I like that idea of, he still had one more lesson that he needed to learn. It made sense to me. It didn't seem alien or out of nowhere. Again, yes, I know going to kill the nephew is pretty harsh, thing, but in retrospect, considering what he had been through and what he was trying to accomplish and just seeing all of that crumble away, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No. I see what you're getting at, but here's where I take issue with that is the fact that these stories are, they're Star Wars in and of itself is based on, and it's the second time I've brought the hero's journey up or whatever, but it's based on the hero's journey, which I love the hero's journey as a story structure. Like it works for so many things when you want a sense of something grander and like more powerful out there. Like, our lives are being guided by fate for the better. There's a force of good out there that's guiding our hand, which is essentially what we're getting at. And so when you break down the hero's journey, by the time the hero reaches his or her full arc, they are at that time what is referred to as the master of both worlds.
Right.
And they have completed their story arc. Now, it's not to say that they can't have another story arc, but I feel like his place in that story would have been better served as a guiding force for Rey as opposed to an obstacle for Rey, because he really didn't do much until the end when he defended the resistance, the rebel fighters, whatever, rebellion 2.0, whatever. Yeah. He defended the resistance, and now that's actually where I break apart from a lot of the Last Jedi haters. I am a Last Jedi hater, but everybody hates that he didn't just show up and whip Kylo Ren's ass. And I said, no, hold on. Wait a minute. This is the one thing that Luke Skywalker does that actually makes sense in context, because he followed the creed of the Jedi. He won the battle without even lifting his blade.
Yep.
To, like you said, to defend, not to attack. And he defended without a lick of violence. And so, and we all, of course, we all want to see Luke Skywalker throw down. Of course we do, because, we want to see what he's capable of. We got to see that in The Mandalorian finally, and it was awesome. But then I was like, hey, this is great, man. This is a nice turning point for Luke Skywalker. And now we're finally going to get to see, oh, he's dead. Okay. Fuck you, Rian Johnson.
No, thank you for killing him before anybody else could do anything really stupid with him.
Like, what else are you going to do with him?
I think the redemption of Luke is has a far greater importance to it than some would give it. Like, this is why it works. Like, if Rey had just left the island and Luke was like, I'm not going to do anything, and that's just where they ended it, then I would 1,000% agree with you. What the hell did they do to Luke Skywalker? Why did they, corrupt his character like that? But because he does come back and he does have that shining moment, it makes everything that came before it justified and worthwhile, because yeah, we all wanted to see him be the new Obi-Wan or the Yoda, but I wanted more from Luke Skywalker than just to serve a utilitarian role in the movie as just, okay, you're just the mentor and the teacher. I liked that he had conflict and that he was a living, breathing, working character that had to go through things in the movie as well, as opposed to he's just going to teach her how to, swing the blade and lift rocks and such. I like that he had his own personal demons to overcome.
I was hoping that Rey would give him a piggyback ride.
Like in the pictures that they released.
This was so much easier with Yoda.
It made Luke's presence in the movie worthwhile, and again, not just the teacher. He was a fully fleshed out character that was going through something. And I think, for me personally, if you're going to bring Luke Skywalker back into the fold, by God, you should do something really, really good and give him a meaty role, and then not just like I was sounding like Obi-Wan, but yeah, concentrate, Rey.
Well, speaking of speaking of Obi-Wan, and I think we had this conversation because I think Obi-Wan, when I watched Obi-Wan on Disney Plus, when that came out,
show sucks.
That was Obi-Wan was the point where I officially decided to just not watch any new Star Wars anymore, because I was like, okay, I've sat through all this stuff now, and you watched it, and I think you even came to me and talked to me at that point, and you're like, okay, I'm not saying I agree with you about Luke, but I'm saying I understand where you're coming from after I saw them break down Obi-Wan Kenobi.
1,000%.
Like, and you know, not to get off topic for for Last Jedi or anything like that, but like Obi-Wan Kenobi could have been an amazing movie.
Sure.
That, like, I mean, like the battle, but the rematch between him and Darth Vader on what planet was it on? I don't even remember.
I don't know. Dark Rock
Planet. But that was very emotionally charged.
Yes.
But you had to wade through all of this filler, and there was so much in that just didn't make sense. It's just like you have the story beats lined up, and then you like, all right, these are the dots we have to connect. I don't care how we get there, but this is what we need to happen. And I felt like that was kind of the way in The Last Jedi. There was Rian Johnson had some dots he wanted connected, didn't care how we got there, but we would just kind of connect the dots. And I'll give an example here, and that's going to be the Canto Bight side plot. And I think, do you agree with me on that one, or no? You don't agree with me on that?
No, I don't agree with you. I love the Canto Bight stuff.
It's total filler, man.
No,
like,
it's part of the story.
What part of that did you enjoy?
I enjoyed a location that didn't depend on climate in order to establish itself as a different world. So yeah, Monte Carlo, basically.
Not a rock planet or a salt planet or a water planet or a desert planet
or a desert planet or a jungle planet.
It's a casino planet.
It's a casino planet. It's Monte Carlo. It's an alien Monte Carlo, which I thought was really cool and different and fun. I thought that it served a purpose because it emphasizes the movie's attempt to show the audience that it's not just as simple as good versus evil. There are shades of gray there. Hence, you find out when they're investigating on the casino planet that the people that are selling weapons to the First Order also sold weapons to the Resistance as well. So the Resistance is reaching out to these scumbags and getting their own weapons. So again, it's not easy, and this is something that the show Andor does very, very well, of again presenting these shades of gray. War is
what is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again. War is a complicated thing. When you're going to fight people, you know, there's lots of different conflicts within conflicts.
Yeah, and I guess, and that's where my view differs, because like, yes, I got the message about war profiteering in that, but to me, it felt ham-fisted and shoehorned. Like I felt like, no. And I think, and as you were describing that, I think I finally got down to like the gritty of like one of the big things that bothered me about Star Wars, or not Star Wars, The Last Jedi in particular. And, you know, as I just said with like Luke and Rey and everything, which was, I'm kind of a traditionalist in that respect, is, you know, I expect it for a story like Star Wars. I expect good and evil to be black and white. And I know life isn't always like that,
right?
But life is not Star Wars. You know, like Star Wars is a fantasy film. You know what I mean? Like I want the clear cut good and evil. And when you start mixing in these kinds of shades of gray, yes, it does add a little bit of depth to it. Yeah. But then on the backhand of that, I've heard Last Jedi defenders, and you've never said this, thank God, because it's one that just sets me off, is if you start having criticism about The Last Jedi or whatever, one of the first go-to things they say is, it's a kid's movie with space wizards and laser swords. And I feel like that's just such a non-response, because I was like, do you understand that it's because it's a kid's movie with space wizards and laser swords that I want it to be not with all these shades of gray? Give me my good guys, give me my bad guys.
I think with the core of where we differ, or the reason why, is because we come from different places in terms of pop culture and what we love. For instance, I guess I probably should have prefaced this entire discussion with, while I do love Star Wars, Star Trek I love even more.
Well, Star Trek, I feel like Star Trek has the place for that sort of that sort of political unrest and intrigue.
And it's me being selfish, because I want the thing that I love more to kind of dip, slide its way into the other thing that I love. I love the Star Wars iconography. It's they're cool movies, lightsabers and Darth Vader and the Force. The idea of you take this science fiction, war movie, but add mysticism to it, I think was really, really clever. So I love a lot about Star Wars, but Star Trek, is just complex characters.
I could agree to that. And I like Star Trek for those same reasons. I enjoy those things in Star Trek, but Star Trek is like that's why people always, they're, the age old question, what's better, Trek or Wars? They're different. They are very different. Yes. The only thing that they have in common is they're people zipping around through spaceships. That's it. That is the only thing. Other than that, it is space politics 101 for those episodes.
The biggest difference is, yes, they're both, pieces of entertainment about zipping around in spaceships, but the people in Star Trek know how their spaceships work. And nobody in Star Wars knows how anything works except for Chewbacca. That's it. Nobody knows how any of these things are flying or doing anything. And Star Trek will tell you in great detail about it.
And I think that in talking through some of this, I am starting to now understand for the first time like where the heart of some of my gripes with this version of Star Wars lies, because it's a tonal whiplash, because it's everything that you loved and expected from Star Wars, you didn't get. And I don't just mean the subversion of expectations. I mean also it's just in terms of the world that they lived in now does not feel the same, and you can't quite put your finger on it, and you don't know why. But now I'm starting to understand why, because it's not that same sort of fantasy optimism that you were getting. It's more gritty. And as I like the idea of a more gritty, grounded type of Star Wars, I feel like that would have a place in a movie or a TV series set in the underbelly of Star Wars, which they tried to do with Book of Boba Fett, and it was god awful.
Didn't even bother trying.
I watched it, and it just kind of fell back and became the Mandalorian 2.0 basically, because Mandalorian kind of took over that.
Well, he
show.
took over 2 or 3 episodes. It was just where the hell did Boba Fett go?
Yeah,
I didn't even bother because I don't care about the character of Boba Fett. It was kind of cool when he came back for 2 seconds. But then he should have just, walked away,
right?
And we should have just gotten back to where we needed to be. But but everyone loves Boba Fett because I'm not quite sure why, because he was able to track them successfully in Empire, because Vader kind of spoke to him hey, be on your best behavior. And why is Vader talking to somebody like that? He must be a badass. I was like, okay, cool. You don't really do anything. And then he has a clumsy, stupid death in Return of the Jedi. Boba Fett, where? And then right into the Sarlacc pit where he should have stayed.
I agree. I don't think Boba Fett should have ever come back. But there was too much money to be made.
Whatever.
So he was a well-known character. They brought him back.
So they did it because there was always so many fan theories about it. I was going to toss you a sort of I don't know if capitulation is the right word, but I was going to toss you a bit of an agreement in terms of something about The Last Jedi that I don't like, and I don't know if you feel this way as well. Not that I don't like it, but I think it's so in the movie, and this is a lot of people consider this a plus, a good thing about the movie, and I can see where they're coming from, and part of me agrees, but part of me has a problem with it. The level of death in this movie of the First Order just killing so many resistance members, just destroying ship after ship after ship. Half of the movie is them just doing a slow chase.
I was going to bring up the slow chase.
The OJ chase.
Yeah.
The white Bronco is going 35 miles an hour, and the cops are just right behind them.
It's so not compelling at all.
It is. I understand why. I mean, everyone's like, well, why would they do that? It's because it's called hubris. And I understand the villains, being egotistical and thinking, well, we can just toy with them. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But it goes on for so long. And the level of violence towards the resistance of just, again, ship after ship just being destroyed, all of these people dying, it I think they went a little too far with it. I get what they were trying to do, this is war. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know if that's what I particularly want from a Star Wars movie. Yes, I understand there's war, and we see ships getting destroyed all the time.
Why is it that the First Order can't just hyperspace jump ahead deploy ships and cut off the fleets. Like, I'm sure they gave some reason.
Again,
for
they're just toying with them at this point. Like, General Hux is just being like, we've got them.
So hubris.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah, hubris, ego, in which I'm fine with. I'm fine with the bad guys.
They want to make them suffer and run down the clock, I guess.
I'm fine with the bad guys, toying with their prey and such. That's a traditional bad guy thing to do. But I will agree that it went on a little too long and it was a little too much because it did bring me to a place of like, am I supposed to enjoy this movie?
Let's make something happen.
Like,
here.
I mean, space battles, space
battles are part of Star Wars.
Space battles are part of Star Wars. And while I get that you want to cement consequences and make them very apparent, and sure, but I also kind of want to have some fun too.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can be like, oh no, they got that one. But like after about 20 times of like, oh no, they got them, it's just like, oh God, are they just gonna keep killing people? Like, there's a reason why these battles in previous Star Wars movies didn't really last longer than 6 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Because if it was like a sustained, lengthy battle sequence, you're gonna get some fatigue.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't want to watch them blow up ships anymore.
Yeah.
Because
it gets old.
I just keep thinking about all the people dying, and I don't want to think about that in a Star Wars movie. So in this respect, this is where I guess I do somewhat agree that, it is sometimes better to be a little bit, just simple black and white. Just keep it simple.
Well, but it's like,
simple
you make that point, and I agree with that too. But also keep in mind, like, we had helpless, like, villagers on their knees being executed in The Force Awakens. That's like the opening scene,
which I'm not defending it. It's okay that they did that. I mean, like, it was, a bunch of off-screen shooting. I mean, the point was made of what they were doing. So,
but it also was like, that's a solid black. That's a villain.
Very, very, mass murder. We also forget that in the original Star Wars, they blow up a planet. So millions upon millions of people are killed.
Mm-hmm.
So Star Wars has never shied away from destruction to a point. But again, they keep it simple. Laser beam, explosion, done, cut. Let's start talking about something else.
Yeah.
They didn't zoom in on the debris of the planet floating through, the cosmos or anything like that.
Right.
In The Force Awakens, kill everybody.
Not to cut you off.
No, you're
but
fine.
Like back on the low speed chase, like, to me, it felt like what we're doing now is we're splitting the main characters into disjointed subplots. And what I want in this movie is we've got three main heroes, right? We've got Finn, Poe, and Rey, and we have all three of them broken up. I'm like, no, I want the three of them sitting in the Millennium Falcon together, going on an adventure, but instead they're all doing something different, and I'm not particularly interested in any one of the three plots we got going on right now. In
retrospect, looking back, because I've always said that I enjoy the character of Poe Dameron, and that's mainly just because I
do like Poe Dameron. I'm going to jump in. I got more to touch on. I'm not done with my gripes yet. Go ahead.
Mainly because I just like Oscar Isaac as an actor.
I love Oscar Isaac.
Like, he's an amazing actor. He needs to do better work and better movies. I mean,
he lives here.
One day I will meet him.
You will meet him one day.
I mean, like, if you ever see the movie Inside Llewyn Davis, that most critics say that that's one of the greatest performances of, like, the decade when it came out, and they're absolutely right. He is a phenomenal actor.
I love Oscar Isaac. What's the name of the movie he did with the actor who plays General Hux?
Ex Machina. That was my favorite movie of that year. He was an
amazing, twisted, fucked up villain in that movie, and I loved it.
Absolutely.
Like, he's great.
That is one of my favorite science fiction movies ever. He is so good in that. And so when I found he was in Star Wars, playing like a dashing X-Wing pilot, I was really excited. And in the first movie, he doesn't really have a character. He's just X-Wing pilot. He kind of pops in, does some badass shit. He's likable. I mean, he's very likable.
Not much of a character palette to go on in Force Awakens, but he's like, you're supposed to like him.
I was kind of okay with that, though. I was like, he's the dashing hero. Now, again, The Last Jedi comes along, and they want to somewhat overcomplicate things.
I'm getting there.
Yeah,
I'm gearing up, man.
I understand why they did what they did with Poe Dameron and making him sort of like a whiny little bitch in that movie. Just like, what is she doing? It doesn't make any sense. Like, like, everybody in the movie needs to learn a lesson. Everybody needs to learn a lesson. But
I'm gearing up. I'm getting ready to blow up, man.
I do somewhat agree that maybe
fucking hate hate Admiral Holdo with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns. Okay, do you understand me when I tell you I love Laura Dern? She's amazing. She's an amazing actress. I have no beef with her. Yeah. She did a great job at making me hate her, and I'll tell you exactly why. Like, this was poorly executed. So the thing was, Poe has a lesson to be learned, and the reason they're doing that is because Poe is just brash and arrogant, and maybe the way they kind of portrayed it, he might be just a little bit misogynistic because he didn't want to listen to a woman. And that, but here's my thing though, because that's I've heard that parroted back, like, oh, the Poe had a little bit of misogyny in him because he didn't want to take orders from Holdo. I was like, he practically worships General Leia. All right, he adores that.
Oh,
woman.
I never thought there was anything misogynistic about what he was doing. I think he was just being an idiot.
Yeah, but he's kind of not wrong in what he's doing. And Holdo's secrecy laid the framework for the eventual mutiny. And it's set up to look like see, he should have just listened to her. But here's the thing: if you break it down. When he finally hears the plan, what does he say?
That it's brilliant?
He says, he nods and he goes, that might work. Then you should have just fucking told him because he's one of your commanding officers.
I do agree that, especially in such a tense, situation, that open communication with your subordinates would probably be a really good idea. That way you're all on the same page.
Now here's the thing. But in order to make that work, we have to believe that he's reckless, and it's not because he's ill-intentioned, but because he's reckless, and because of that thing that happened in the opening thing with the opening scene with the bomber or whatever. Right. He made a reckless maneuver. It cost him, but now because that happened, we're suddenly made to believe Poe can't be trusted because he's reckless, and so we. I
know boys like you.
Yeah, so we take the character that we all love and respect, which is General Leia. Yeah, and she's taken out of commission because here's the thing, I feel like if that was coming from General
Mary
Leia,
Poppins moment that she has,
I feel like if that was coming from General Leia, we all would have been like, okay, General Leia, well, I'm with you, but instead we replace her with this character who's she's not much of a character, kind of like Poe was in episode 7. Yeah, she's just kind of there, and she's just very cold and arrogant, and every time she snaps at him, you got to understand, a lot of people, we've been on this journey with Poe for 2 movies now, and because everybody kind of projects themselves into the hero characters, and when she gives him that tongue lashing and basically says, go scrub the decks with a toothbrush, kid, we're like, fuck you, Holdo.
This is an area of The Last Jedi that I used to, again, defend like everything else, but over time, as I look back, I do somewhat agree with you that I like the idea of it. I just think the execution is a little piss poor, and I do agree that it is stupid not to have open communication with your subordinates during a time of war. Yeah. And
I mean, they're like, well, he got demoted. I'm like, there's 4 people left in the resistance, man. He's
who else you have? But I like the idea of it. It's like communism. On paper, it's great, but when you put it into practice, not so much. Right. I like the idea of Leia. Basically, Leia is the Yoda of the movie, and that is cemented 1,000% when she walks into the room hobbling with a fucking cane.
I guess you could say she's kind of the Yoda to Poe.
She is the Yoda to Poe, yes. Yeah. She fulfills that. Well, she didn't really have a lot of time to mentor him because she's knocked unconscious for most of the movie because of
she's Space Mary Poppins.
The Mary Poppins, just a spoonful of sugar. Which I don't have a problem with the Mary Poppins moment, and as absurd as it kind of looks.
It's kind of dumb, but you know what? You also have to think okay, well, she's using magic. Yes. You know what I mean? She has the Force is magic. She's a wizard. She's using magic.
I am okay with her using the Force in a different way that I've never seen before. That somewhat to me makes sense because again, the Force. It's an energy field. She encased herself in the energy field. Right. That makes sense. It makes a lot more sense than I can now randomly heal your wounds.
Yeah. Well, the resurrection thing. I mean, that's going into the Rise of Skywalker. But the resurrection thing. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Jedi can now heal people and bring them back from the dead, because that kind of undoes a lot of stuff now. Because why did all these characters die before if we had a Jedi that knew how to do that?
Only certain, really just the Palpatines.
Yeah.
And then I guess it was a Sith thing. Because,
go ahead.
Well, I don't want to get too far into it, but no, I think it's incredibly stupid because you're right. Why hasn't this ever popped up before? I can buy other uses of the Force. And again, that's one of the reasons why I like The Last Jedi quite a bit was, I said to myself, going in there, because again, with The Force Awakens, while there were a lot of cool moments, great lightsaber battle at the end, Harrison Ford doing his thing, wonderful, those things, it was very much a lot of repetition. And I went into The Last Jedi saying, okay, show me something that I haven't seen before in Star Wars. And while there's still, of course, tons of familiar, iconography and things going on, it did show me some things that I hadn't seen, which I really appreciated. In hindsight, some of them work and some of them don't. But I really, really liked it. And so, her doing her Mary Poppins thing, I was like, cool, never seen anybody use the Force like that. Luke at the end, projecting himself, light years across the galaxy. Cool. I've never seen anybody do that with the Force. Another thing that we're going to disagree on is in The Mandalorian, everybody loved Luke Skywalker appearing and killing robots. I didn't, because it's like, but I just saw him do the most badass thing I've ever seen in The Last Jedi. And what does he do in this? He's smashing robots, which was what we've been seeing Jedi do for many movies now.
It was nostalgia bait, and we fell for it. I fell for it, and I still enjoy it.
I had good
but it was like
too.
We got to see to the theme of the Force, Luke Skywalker as we knew him in Return of the Jedi, just show up and be that Jedi. And you know what? But that's
and I get it. And like I said, we talked about this before when season 3 of Picard came out. Like the showrunner of that season gave me and every other Star Trek fan everything we could have ever wanted from a continuation of Star Trek: The Next Generation. He gift wrapped all of those things, and we got to unwrap them, and we were all giddy as school children. And when the Luke thing initially did happen in Boba Fett, Mandalorian, sorry. Of course, I was like everyone else, like, is it him? Oh my God, that's going to be Luke Skywalker. And then he pulled off the hood and the CGI monstrosity. With
it's not going to age well.
That just sounds so poor. I am. He must come with me. Because this is just lines pieced together from other things. And it sounds, and it's even worse in the book of Boba Fett. Sometimes I think his heart is not in it. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys are those two instances of Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett for me are far more offensive than anything they did with him in The Last Jedi. Whether or not you think it makes sense, at least it was genuine. And I wasn't looking at some sort of, digital monstrosity cobbled together by people in an office. This was a real performance. Mark Hamill acted the hell out of that role in The Last Jedi when he's talking to Rey about, how the Sith undid the Jedi and, basically the Jedi's legacy is failure. A very, very bitter thing to think. And I get it, not the Luke that we know, but I liked him going through that journey, as I mentioned before. And then at the end when he
that's the thing, beautifully performed. I don't agree with the sentiment.
Sure. And apparently neither did Mark Hamill, but
I mean, and I can't say I blame him because that's his legacy character, but also, it seems that and I didn't watch The Acolyte, I read some reviews of it online and stuff like that. But I think one of the big things that they tried to do with The Acolyte was also kind of continuing The Last Jedi, where they're putting this thing out there where they're just like, the Jedi aren't really that good. They're really kind of assholes a little bit. You know what I mean? But I'm like, no. They were the defenders of justice and peace in the galaxy. Don't try to make it into something else now. So it's once again that thing where we're trying to go out of this world where there was a force for good, and now we're flipping that on its head and saying they're kind of corrupt dickheads.
I think just the same way that you can't really buy into the whole, let the past die, kill it if you have to. Remember, the person that's saying that is the bad guy. You can't really trust anything that's coming out of his mouth because he is corrupted by evil. Just like with Luke saying, the legacy of the Jedi is failure and whatnot. This is a bitter old man talking, and he is so caught up with what happened to him and everything like that. It is corrupting everything that came before. He is not a reliable witness. Kylo Ren is not a reliable witness. They're both going through journeys. So it's hard to hear Luke say those things, but I personally don't think we're as supposed to agree with him outright, because again, this is a man on a journey, and by the end, he does come back to the light. He does open himself up to the Force, and does what he needs to do. It's okay. It's okay for him to say those things because, again, it's his journey. If he ended the movie on that mountaintop, meditating and then mumbling, "Fucking Jedi, stupid asshole," and then died, I'd been like, well, no, because that's part of the lesson that he had to learn. But he's not right. Kylo Ren is not right about kill the past. I don't think that's exactly.
But that's exactly what Ryan set out to do. It feels like.
But he's also relying, just like The Force Awakens, on things. He's just twisting them a little bit. He's still relying on a mentor-mentee relationship to be the core of the movie. You're still seeing a lot of familiar things. He just tweaked them a little bit. I think you have to, again, Kylo Ren is wrong. Let the past die, kill it if you have to. I think you need to move on from the past, but I think it is always there, and you need to learn from it.
You need to learn from the past.
I don't think he's trying to destroy everything that came before. I think he's trying to say, that's all well and good, and we got that. We know it now. Now let's go forward and do some different things based on what we know, but let's form our own identity. And whether or not he, succeeded is obviously the point of contention between. I think he mostly did. There are some areas where I think he falters a little bit, but again, I kind of got what I wanted out of the movie, and obviously, clearly, you and a lot of other people didn't. Right. But again, I think it's a greater tribute to Luke Skywalker as the character. It is more of an honor to have seen him go through what he did in The Last Jedi. Whether or not you disagree with it or not, but it's such a complex journey and a great performance, especially at the end when he sees Leia and they have that moment.
Great,
you can't.
It's a great performance. I'm not going to deny that. Like the performances, especially by Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, like top tier. Yeah, absolutely loved it. My issue with the movies have nothing to do with the actors nor their performances. Speaking of which, because I've still got a couple more topics to point on here. All right.
Throw them at.
So we're talking about characters, and I'd be remiss if I didn't go on to say how disappointed I was with Finn just kind of like relegated to a very small, goofy kind of like I feel like he just kind of became the Jar Jar Binks of the film. But like when you go back to Force Awakens, like it was an original idea for a character that sparked so many like different directions you could have taken that character, and it was just kind of squandered. And and I think John Boyega is a fine actor, and I think he did a great job. But I mean, like, he had one of the most intriguing stories. Like, he was a former stormtrooper breaking free from the First Order's brainwashing, basically becoming a hero. He faces off with Kylo Ren and basically, buys time for, like, he doesn't win, but he assists in the fight. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Because like if he hadn't have been there, then Rey would have lost that fight, which I think she should have lost the fight, but that's neither here nor there. Well, and not because like I think she needed to lose. I'm just mean like from a narrative standpoint, like if you have the hero beat the villain the first time they face off, then what's the point? But that's we're going off on a side tangent. That's Force Awakens. But like I saw so much potential in this character. Like maybe like we were, and even when we saw the trailer, we were kind of led to believe that this was our guy. Yeah. This was the hero of the story. And he was kind of a red herring. And that's fine. I can accept that. But like do more with his character as opposed to him running around screaming Rey, which was Rise of Skywalker and stuff like that. But it's like, and I guess that's also because I didn't really like the Canto Bight side plot and I was bored by it. And I felt like it was just sort of a waste of his character. So, but I feel like, Finn kind of got the short end of the stick in the grand scheme, and there was more that they should have and could have done with their story and set him on his own heroic journey, and they just kind of relegated him to the Jar Jar Binks of the sequel trilogy.
I agree that at the end, that's absolutely what they did with him. And Rise of Skywalker, just a waste of
Oh
time.
my God. He might not have even been
showed
there.
up. Yeah, it would have been the same movie without him. I do absolutely disagree with you in regards to The Last Jedi because I like the Canto Bite stuff.
Yeah, right.
And that is his journey right there. He is an interesting character, right? He is very interesting in The Force Awakens, and I think they continue that very nicely. They succeed with Finn where they failed with Poe in The Last Jedi, in my opinion. They didn't really handle Poe very well in The Last Jedi. I think they handled Finn quite correctly because he is in this for Rey because he has become friends with Rey and he wants to protect her. He is not in the fight when you're at The Last Jedi. He is around because he wants to support Rey and protect her and yada yada because of their friendship and such. But he is really not in the fight. He is trying to run away. He was trying to run away in the first movie as well.
That was also my problem with that was like this whole thing. Like he went through this whole arc. It's once again my issue with like you're undoing the arc so you can do it again, like you did with Luke Skywalker, and especially like you did with Finn. Not more than one movie ago, he was being a coward and running away, and he finally stood his ground and fought.
Of course.
And now we get to the next part of the movie, and he's running away. I'm like, no, we just did that.
I think again though, I honestly think that if Rey had in The Force Awakens said, "Fuck off, I'm not a part of any of this," and walked away, he would have walked right with her. But the fact that she was in it meant that he was in it. So I think The Last Jedi is a very nice reaffirmation of his journey towards, and he even says it, like the movie literally looks you in the eye and says it when the lady from Game of Thrones that wears the shiny gold armor.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Who plays Captain Phasma.
She's also in Severance, which we need to talk about sometime. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. Captain Phasma. I think I'm saying that right. Phasma.
Phasma. Yeah. Chrome Dome.
Just the one of the most worthless characters in all of Star Wars. Shiny.
One of the worst lines, right up there with somehow Palpatine returned.
But she does say at one point either. I think it's her. I don't think it's just a random stormtrooper, but she does say at one point to Finn, "You're scum. You are scum," and he replies back, "Rebel scum," which is his way of saying, "I have joined the fight now." Because everything that he goes through on Canto Bite, he believes that okay, so I've escaped working for the bad people. I'm working for the good guys now, right? It's not as easy as that. It's a little bit more complicated. And again, I know we talked about whether or not that belongs in Star Wars or not. But it is his journey, and then by the time you get to the, him being held hostage by Phasma and Benicio del Toro betraying and all that stuff, he is legitimately a soldier in the fight, and his arc is complete at that point. Which I know it kind of does seem like that in The Force Awakens, but I bought that he needed to learn another lesson. I guess the issue
but not the same lesson.
Well, I guess the issue is though. Then after that wonderful thing, they had nothing to do with him. In The Rise of Skywalker, they basically, it's the reason why Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo killed off at the Empire Strikes Back, because he felt like the character reached an end, and there's nothing else you can do. And
I'll tell you something else, like with Finn, because I felt like the best place for him, his story arc to go out. They were so close to doing it, and then they yank it away from us, and that's to let him have his self-sacrifice to save the rebellion, and he's this close to doing it, and Rose Tico stops him from doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? That would have been a cool moment, but now we get to see him in the next movie, and then you didn't do anything with him, so he should have just had that heroic moment of self-sacrifice.
So I'm conflicted about that because I like the idea of Rose again saving him, and the idea of we're going to win this war.
Don't tell me you love that line, because that is one of the worst lines in Star Wars ever. I don't know if
I love the line. I think I enjoy the sentiment of it. But the problem with it is
we're going to war. Let's get out there and start hugging each other, because that's how we're going to win this war.
The problem is I think it's the sentiment is too little, too late, because you've just seen a majority of this movie where it's just death upon death upon death upon death upon death upon death. Like you're really piling on the destruction and the death. And at the very end, it's like, Oh, but none of that's, no, we don't, it's like, well, no, you just spent your entire movie just watching us having us watch people die. And then at the very end, you're going to be like, but I don't think that, it's a good idea to do that. I was like, but you've been doing it though.
But you've been doing it.
So I will agree that there's a slight issue with it. Like, I don't mind her saving him. That's fine. I don't mind the character of Rose in general. I think she got done dirty just like Finn did in the third movie. I'm going to go over blueprints here. You all go off on your adventure and have fun. So I thought she was a fine character in The Last Jedi. Certainly didn't deserve a lot of the hate that she got.
No, I mean, like, once again,
excuse me.
The actress got a lot of hate, and that's not fair. Don't do it. Like, I don't like the character, but don't go after the actress. Like that's terrible. That gives fans a bad name. Please don't do that. But
it's and I don't mind the character at all. I think she's fine and dandy. I just
she was there.
I just keep thinking about the rise of Skywalker, and in that movie, she is there.
She was. I felt like Finn needed a sidekick to go off on this side plot with.
She does serve a very utilitarian role of just like, okay, Finn needs somebody
with a little bit of a romance arc thrown in. Not a very compelling one, because I felt no chemistry between those actors. But
no, and the romance is whatever. I mean, however she felt about him is I don't care.
Nobody does.
I do believe though that she is more than just a character thrown in there, because they do give her, It is a solidly built character, because she is the relative of somebody that we see die earlier in the movie, a heroic death. They're the ones that saved, or they were able to get the bombs, dropped and whatnot. So she is. So again, it's trying to take a deeper dive into the whole idea of war and loss. Rarely do we meet, the relative of a random X-Wing pilot that just got blown up, Here we're seeing the
effects of war.
The effects of war.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, aspect of it, because it's not so consistently in your face. Like all of the other destruction is, later on in the movie, during the OJ chase. She's a solidly built character, and I think she performed it very well. And again, it all goes back to the Canto Bight stuff, which again, if you don't like the Canto Bight stuff, then you're not going to like Finn or Rose in this movie, because
I didn't, and I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So that's their journey. So, but. Yeah, I think diving in at the end, I don't mind her saving him, but the PSA, the more you know message of like, violence, man, it's like, I'm not saying that, Rian Johnson was purporting that violence was a good thing by showing us all of the destruction. I just think, I don't know, it didn't.
Well, I mean, there's
it was clumsy.
There's a message to be gleaned, I suppose, with the idea that like, movies like Star Wars and just war movies, a lot of war movies in general, not all of them, but a lot of them kind of glorify what war is.
Sure.
And war is like as it's been said before, war is hell. Like nobody like war is a terrible thing, man. But like we get all glitzed up to watch like these wars in the stars because I guess it appeals to something in our nature, even though it's like one of the worst things that could happen. But it's like, I think that everybody wants to feel like they have a cause, like something to like. Everybody kind of wants to be a hero, just a little bit, I think. And by watching these characters being heroes, like we can kind of put ourselves in their shoes without actually having to go to war. It's a fantasy, but it is kind of a violent fantasy if you think about it.
And it's existed throughout so many stories. I mean,
it goes back it's as old as time and as long as man has been telling stories.
War is romantic as long as you're not the one fighting it.
Yes. No, that's exactly true though, man. But I had one more point I wanted to make because like this is running a little long, which is fine. Like I don't mind, but it's like we could probably talk about this for hours and hours if we wanted to. But,
absolutely.
Tell me where you stand on this.
Okay.
The unceremonious death of Snoke. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
I was fine with it. I mean, I didn't. I didn't much care for. I mean, I didn't really care about Snoke in general because he was just a big giant hologram. And
he was a mystery box.
He was a mystery box
that got tossed to the side.
That got tossed to the side. And let me just really briefly just say this, and then I'll get back to talking about Snoke specifically. Rian Johnson, whether or not you agree with what he did with The Last Jedi, I will say though that he was able to do what he did with The Last Jedi because he was not given any instruction on where to go with the story, because the J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy had no idea where they were going with the story when they made The Force Awakens.
And that's on them as well. That's
It is
on
1,000% on
that
them.
is on. I mean, that's on them for not leaving story notes and saying this is where the story's going.
Exactly.
They should have done that. But J.J. freaking Abrams has a tendency. Listen, we all saw Lost, man.
Yeah.
It's mystery box after mystery box, but no, like he'll put the mystery box there, not knowing what the hell is in it. Like, no. That's one of my problems with J.J. Abrams is he doesn't like to be a good writer. If before you present the mystery box, you've already started at the end of the story and you've worked your way backwards. He just starts there, puts the mystery box in front of you. He has no idea what the hell is in it.
No.
So and so you know what? And I'll give a point to you on this one to say that like maybe not entirely Rian Johnson's fault for saying like I don't feel like coming up with this shit.
Yeah.
Like you set up this plot point and you don't have a place for me to go with it, then no. Like
Right.
I'm just gonna throw it over here. But from the perspective of the fans, they're like, we wanted to know what was in the box.
Right. No.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? And I completely understand that, but the lack of care that was had with Snoke was felt by me, and so when Rian Johnson just decided to get rid of him, I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that.
So, here's, I mean, and you know, and I can,
it was a cool fight scene
like,
afterwards.
I don't agree, but I understand. But here's the problem that it created, which we had to pay the piper for that in Rise of Skywalker, which was, okay, so now you've taken out the big villain.
Yeah.
We have one of two directions that we can go with this, because there has to be a villain.
Yeah, his name was Kylo Ren.
That's the thing. I think so. Here's the thing. J.J. Abrams started this story. Kylo Ren, from when he started Force Awakens, in his mind was always to be a big redemption arc.
Of course.
He was supposed to be redeemed from the very, and it was pretty obvious.
Absolutely.
In the beginning. Like he was a character that fell to the dark side. He was going to find his way back to the light. It was extremely obvious. Right. But now with the death of Snoke and Kylo Ren becoming the supreme ruler leader? I don't even
the supreme leader,
which is anyways.
Whatever.
Kylo Ren is now the supreme leader. And I'm like, okay, Kylo Ren, supreme leader. He is fully in as the big bad evil guy now. Like that's it. That he's the person. But when we get to Rise of Skywalker, Rian Johnson goes, No. He was supposed to be redeemed, so we're gonna undo. It's like as I've heard a YouTuber say before regarding Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams. It's like two children arguing over whose toys get to be in the sandbox. Only the sandbox is a $4 billion franchise,
right?
And so, but he was just like, no. We're gonna go ahead and put him on the redemption arc. Well, we need a villain. Hey, give Ian McDermott a call. See if, and Ian McDermott said in an interview, that's exactly the way it went down. Like he got a phone call and he was like, hey, they're going to bring back the Emperor. Are you up for playing it? And he's like, oh, okay, sure. But then through that action, through killing Snoke and then bringing back you're in a corner now where, and this is not entirely Rian Johnson's fault because he only took the first step to this.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams took the final step to it. But what you then do is you undo everything about the prophecy of the one, the chosen one, that would bring balance to the Force, the destruction of the Sith. Because Anakin, he didn't do it.
No, apparently not.
We thought he did.
Apparently he didn't.
And in George's mind, in his mind, like, and George has said, like in several interviews, like when I wrote The Last Jedi, the Emperor was absolutely dead. He was gone. Anakin Skywalker destroyed the Sith. He went a roundabout way to do it. He went through a tragic arc to do it, but he did it. But now we have unmade that. We have undone that. And go ahead.
Well, the prophecy is that that Anakin or the Chosen One is not going to destroy the Sith. The prophecy is that he's going to bring balance to the Force.
I thought it was I thought it was to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force.
Initially, all they say was to bring balance to the Force. Later on,
they retconned
They
it. Okay.
augmented it to say, and Obi-Wan says it, is he not to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force? But I don't understand how you bring balance to the Force by completely destroying one side of it. That you have now made it one-sided. Balancing the Force means equal ground. So if you completely destroy the Sith, you no longer have balance on the Force. So there always needs to be some Sith, and there always needs to be some Jedi.
Well, I mean, but there was, yeah, but then there was still one Jedi left in the world, like after all that happened, and it was Luke Skywalker. At least through canon of the movies. If you go to the expanded universes, there was lots of other Jedi still out there. But
what he ultimately, the Chosen One should have been able to do was not just destroy the Sith. What the Chosen One should have been able to have accomplished was to destroy the dark side in general. That way, there isn't another side, there is just the light, and then within that you can have balance because it's just the light now. But as long as the dark side is always there, there's going to be a little seesaw. So the Chosen One should have somehow, I don't know how, eradicated the dark side completely, and that's how you achieve balance, not just destroying the Sith.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a matter of interpretation. Like,
sure.
I mean, but if it was a Jedi prophecy, it would also stand to reason if the Jedi foretold it that in their mind, balance is the light having control because the light is the good guys. Now, like, from
good as a point of view, Anakin.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's the truth from a certain point of view. That's kind of exactly it. Like, you could look at the balance of one of two ways. One, it is the balance where you have an equal number of Sith or Jedi, or zero on both sides, or it's the balance of those who maintain the order, which is, as was George Lucas's vision,
right,
the Jedi. So I mean, it really just kind of depends. But with that motion, what we've kind of done now is we've taken the prophecy of the Chosen One and we have taken that away from Anakin Skywalker, and it is now Rey's legacy. And there's a lot of people take issue with that, and I'm one of them. Like I felt like I feel like we took that away from Anakin Skywalker now. Like that's not fair to me.
My biggest gripe, and it again, this is more to do with the Rise of Skywalker, is that Rian Johnson did set up what was to come in the next movie. He did it very, very well, and he did it with a very simple line that Luke said to Kylo right before he, peaced out, which was, "See you around, kid." Luke was supposed to come back as a Force ghost and haunt the shit out of Kylo Ren, eventually leading to his redemption.
But he didn't.
But it's set up very clearly that that's what's supposed to happen.
But you know what he did do? He showed up and gave a big middle finger to Rian Johnson, and which I got to say, as somebody who I feel kind of antagonistic towards Rian Johnson, when he showed up and as a Force ghost caught the lightsaber and says, "A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect," I went, "Fuck you, Rian Johnson!" Not out loud in the theater, but in my head, I'm like, "Oh, fuck you."
The teachings.
I was wrong.
It goes against the teachings of Yoda. Weapons are not important, whatnot. But then you have Luke and even Obi-Wan in the prequels, which Red Letter Media, spoke on, was, "This weapon is your life." Really? I didn't think that was what the Jedi were about, but okay. But I don't want to go down that road too far. One thing really quickly, and I think might be the last thing I'll get off my chest about The Last Jedi, because again, we've said that a lot of what Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi was because he was not given direction by J.J. Abrams, and with The Force Awakens. Here's the thing, one last thing I want to say about it is what he did with Luke Skywalker, the reason why I don't have a problem with it was because it makes perfect sense to me, given how they introduced Luke at the end of The Force Awakens and how they talk about him throughout The Force Awakens. Luke Skywalker has vanished. We've got to find him. He's on this unfindable planet somewhere. And you find him at the end, and he looks like he's a recluse on this island by himself. What did you all think? He was on vacation? He's there hiding for a reason. Why? Why is he hiding? The conflict or the, it's already been set up.
I think the fans had kind of started to write their own headcanon about it, which was that like he was doing something really, really important on that island to help, the resistance. I mean, because that's what we all want to believe, you know what I mean? So it's that thing where it's like, this is the hero that I knew. it's not the hero I know. And that's JJ with his good old subversion of expectations.
Because at the end they find Luke. He looks at Rey. He looks like he's having a bout of irritable bowel syndrome.
He's not happy.
He's not happy. But there in that moment though, I'm asking myself, why is he not happy? Why is he not like, oh, hey, look, a Jedi, like, wow, I love you people. I'm one of you.
You found my sword.
Exactly. Hey, give me that back. So it's like, well, so why is he sad? And so other than maybe he senses that Han Solo is dead, was actually what I thought initially when I saw the movie. I was like, oh, he must be sad because he can read her mind that Han Solo is dead.
And that's a really small point, but that's like when he says, where's Han? And that had the potential to be such an amazing scene, and we cut. I'm like, no, damn it.
I will agree with you in that respect. I don't know why the hell he cut that. That would have been really nice to have had. If you're not going to have Han in the movie, at least let Luke have a moment to reflect on him.
And he sees Chewie for like a split second. He goes, Chewie, where's Han? Cut. I'm like, no. Let him have that moment. Let Mark Hamill have that moment. Let him talk to Chewbacca about the loss of their best friend.
Because it was really nice. It doesn't make up for it, but it is really nice, a moment where Luke does go into the Millennium Falcon at one point, and he's kind of looking at the cockpit, and you see the memories passing through him and whatnot. That's a really nice moment, but it doesn't make up for what we could have also had. Because again, when he and Leia finally get together at the end, it's a beautiful, beautiful moment to see these two iconic characters say their goodbyes. And even if Ford isn't in the movie, it would have been nice for him to have had a moment to reflect on that friendship and to at least internally say goodbye to his best friend. And I do feel like we were robbed of that. So
fair.
A little miffed about that, Rian Johnson, if you're listening.
He's definitely not.
Definitely not.
He sees a podcast about Last Jedi. He's like, no, I ain't listening to that shit.
Running as fast as I can away from that.
Well, I mean, we both had some points of contention, I think, and we went back and forth. Some things, and I think we both gave a little bit of ground and refused to give some ground and stuff too. Like, and that's it's basically what I thought it was gonna be.
A stalemate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even so much a stalemate. I think it's just that. Yeah, it's just that like we what is that from Festive? The airing of grievances. We aired our grievances about The Last Jedi, or at least I did anyways. So you defended it, I aired grievances, but it's all good, man. But I think it's gonna wrap it up for we're running about an hour and a half now. So that's gonna wrap it up for Zumundo podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. I'm Doolin.
And I'm Greg.
And we're gonna see you next time, guys, hopefully. Let's try that again. There we go. There's the music.
Nice.
All right. I think we'll take a little break and come on back. We got some episodes of Zumundus to record now.
Sweet.
So check us out. Same YouTube page, Zumundo. Zumundus.